Hello everyone. Today we're going to check tag questions. First of all, what is a question? According to Merriam-Webster, a question is an interrogative expression often used to test knowledge, or an interrogative sentence or clause. So in other words, a question is a sentence that requires an answer. That's it. Now, how do we formulate questions? The way to formulate questions in English is a little different. We're going to use these three sentences. She is smart. He works at home. They are going to stay home today. Okay, with these three sentences, we're going to check how to make a question. First of all, let's identify the verb in each of these sentences. She is smart. He works at home. They are going to stay home today. So as you see in each of these sentences in color green, I am highlighting the verb. Is, works, are going to stay. Each of these sentences is in a different tense. This is the simple present with the verb to be. This is the simple present with other verbs. And for example, this is the be going to for the future. Okay, so remember you can formulate questions in any tense. There is no limitation about that. In English, the most simple way to transform a normal sentence into a question is moving one part of the verb to the beginning. Usually, the first word of the verb is moved to the beginning. So as you see here, she is smart. The verb is. So in this case specifically, what's going to happen is this. You move is to the beginning. Okay, that's what's happening here. Instead of having is there, you move it to the beginning. Okay, that's what's happening in this case. This is a normal sentence. Now, this is a question. Okay, in English, all the questions have this grammatical form. You have to move something to the beginning, okay? You have to move something to the beginning most of the time. So in general, that's what you're going to do. But remember, you don't have to move all the verb. You only move one part of the verb, and in some cases, something even different. So for example, in these cases, what you're going to do is this. Is she smart? Does he work at home? Are they going to stay home today? So that's simple. But an important aspect here that we have to remember is that, wait, that's a little different. He works. But does he work? So the only exception for this is when you use the simple present or the simple past with other verbs. Okay? In those cases, you have to use the auxiliary verb do, does, and for the simple past, did. Those are the three special cases, let's say. But in general, remember, you just move the first word of the verb to the beginning. Is, are, etc. Okay, you only move one thing, and that's it. There is no more to that. The only special cases are the simple present and the simple past. In those cases, you have to use do, does, or did. Now, tag questions. First of all, let's imagine a situation, and I'm going to give you now the context. You are walking on the street with a friend. Okay? You're walking on the street with a friend. Suddenly, you see a person walking towards you and your friend. Okay, so you see a person walking towards you and your friend. So you think, hey, I know that person. You say that in your head. So you tell your friend the next idea. Is that Thomas? And your friend tells you, yeah, I think so. Is that Thomas? That is a normal yes-no question. It's a real question. Okay, this is a normal yes/no question. It's a real question. In this case, you have the thing that happened here. Remember that you move part of the verb to the beginning. That's the idea of a normal question. But let's imagine the same situation in a little different, and you say something different. Isn't that Thomas? And your friend tells you, yeah, I think so. Isn't that Thomas? Ah, that's a negative yes/no question. Remember, negative yes/no questions are questions with attitude. You're trying to show some emotion, or maybe you're trying to confirm some information. Okay, you show some emotion, or you try to confirm some information. That's a negative question. You can check negative questions in the other video we saw, so please, I'm going to see if I can put it here in a link. But the new thing is the tag question. I'm calling this a tag yes/no question because technically tag questions are yes/no questions, but you're going to see. That is Thomas. Yeah, I think so. But there is a little problem here. This is not a question. If you say this, you are not asking your friend anything. This is just a statement. It's not a question. So how do you change that? Well, you can add to the normal sentence a tag. The tag is an additional particle that you're going to put here. And the point of that is that you're going to transform a statement into a question. That's the point of tag questions. You're going to transform a statement into a question. So you see, this is the tag. That's Thomas, isn't he? This previously was a statement. This is not a question. So if you say this to a person, you're just declaring that. You're not asking that. But if you add a tag question, you are transforming this statement, this normal sentence, into a question. Now, important things. You need to use this comma. Okay, that comma is necessarily for all tag questions. And these two words here. So you see, it's a way to transform a normal sentence, a normal statement, into a question. Now, this is a yes/no question. Okay, it's like a yes/no question now. Now, let's check some rules for tag questions. First of all, look at here. This is yours, isn't it? And in the second one, this isn't yours, is it? What can you notice between these two sentences? Probably you can notice something very obvious. Is, isn't, is. So as you see, if the statement is affirmative, your tag question is going to be negative. And if the sentence is negative, the tag question is going to be affirmative. So that's the first rule. Tag questions and statements are opposites. Okay? The tag question and the statement have to be opposites. If your sentence is affirmative, the tag is negative. If your sentence is negative, the tag is affirmative. Okay? That's the first rule. Now, the second rule. Look at all of these sentences and look at all of these sections in color blue. There is a car, isn't there? Mario works at a hospital, doesn't he? My brothers and sisters didn't come here, did they? You have never seen that movie, have you? I don't have to come, do I? So there is an important thing here, as you can see. In all of these cases, I am using, well, look, there, Mario, but I am not saying Mario in the tag question. I am just saying he. My brothers and sisters, in other words, my siblings. But in the tag question, I don't say my siblings, and I don't say my brothers and sisters. I just say they. So that's the difference. In the case of tag questions, you only use pronouns. Okay, what pronouns? I, you, he, she, it, we, they, and for places, there. There is also a pronoun, but it's a pronoun for places. So remember, please, the second rule is that tag questions use only pronouns, okay? Exclusively pronouns. Rule number 3. Same sentences, but look at all of these cases. There is a car. Isn't there? Mario works at the hospital. Doesn't he? My brothers and sisters came here. Didn't they? You have seen that movie, haven't you? I have to come, don't I? So in this case, what's happening? All of these tag questions are negative. Negative tag questions are always contracted. So all the tag questions that are negative have to be contracted. You can never say is not there or does not he. That's incorrect. Okay, you have, if it's negative, you have to use the contraction. Now for this, there is a special case. I am not very lucky. Am I? Yeah, that's okay. Negative, affirmative. But what happens when it's the opposite? I am very lucky. Aren't I? This is the exception of the rule. But why? Well, there is no contraction for am not. It doesn't exist. There's no formal contraction of am not. So for that reason, only for the case of I am, we're going to use aren't I. Only for that specific case. Other cases, no. But only for this case, because there's no negative contraction of am not. So that's why in this specific special case, you say aren't. So the rule number 3. Negative tag questions are always contracted. And remember, there is an exception. I'm very lucky. Aren't I? Okay, that's rule number 3. Now, also remember, please, that tag questions can happen in all the tenses. They can happen in simple present, simple past, future with will, present perfect, modal verbs, etc. Okay, in all of the cases you can have tag questions. Present perfect continuous, future perfect continuous, any grammar tense that you want. Active voice, passive voice, etc. Okay, and as you see, it can happen in many different tenses, even in passive voice. Okay, there's no problem with that. So those are tag questions. Okay, you have a normal statement and now you transform it into a question. Important. The tag question has 2 parts. The first part is the auxiliary verb or the modal verb. And the second part is the pronoun. Okay, auxiliary verb or modal verb and pronoun. All tag questions have that, even if they are affirmative or if they are affirmative or if they are negative. In all of the cases, you use those 2 things. Auxiliary verb or modal verb in affirmative or negative form contracted, and the pronoun. Okay, that's pretty much it. Summary. So let's review everything. Okay, let's review everything. Tag questions can, the purpose of a tag question is to transform a normal sentence, a normal statement, into a question. There are 2 parts of tag questions. You have to use the auxiliary verb or the modal verb and the pronoun. A tag question is always opposite to the statement. So if your statement is affirmative, your tag question is negative. And if your statement is negative, your tag question is going to be affirmative. Okay, look at some of these cases. The company was founded in 1980, wasn't it? We won't have time for all the rides, will we? You have never seen that movie, have you? Have never is a negative sentence. Never is a negative word. So that's the first rule. A tag question is always opposite to the statement. Rule number 2. A tag question uses pronouns only. In all of the cases, you use a pronoun. Don't use names, don't use this complete descriptions, okay? The subject has to be just reduced to a pronoun. So my brothers and sisters, they, Mario, he, the company, it, etc. And don't forget, there is also a pronoun. There is also a pronoun for places. Rule number 3. A negative tag question is always contracted. So if it's negative, please remember to make it in a contracted form. And remember the exception too. I am very lucky, aren't I? Okay, because remember there is no negative contraction of am not. About the pronunciation, intonation. It's important to remember the intonation of other questions. First of all, a normal yes-no question. Is she your boss? In this case, this question is 100% a question. It's a real question. You are just guessing the information. It's like, is she your boss? Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. The person is not sure. And the intonation is going up, like any other yes-no question. Is she your boss? Because I have no idea. Now, negative questions. Negative questions have the same intonation, but the intention is different because remember, negative questions are questions with attitude. Isn't she your boss? In this case, the intonation is also going up, but the difference is the intention. Your intention is to show emotion, to find agreement, or to confirm or verify information. So in this case, isn't she your boss? The person in this case is trying to confirm information because I think she is your boss. So I am going to ask the question in a negative form. The intonation is also going up in this case. It's raising intonation. But tag questions have two possible inflections. You could say, she is your boss, isn't she? Or she is your boss, isn't she? The two have different intentions. It's very similar to having the normal yes-no questions versus the negative yes-no questions. The difference is the same. So when your intonation goes up, isn't she? That is 100% a question. It's a real question. I am just guessing because I have no idea if she is or if she is not your boss. So I am not sure. This intonation is the raising intonation, going up. But if I say, she is your boss, isn't she? This is not really a question. This is to show emotion, to find agreement, or to confirm information. Falling intonation in tag questions is to show emotion, find agreement, or to confirm or verify information. So you have two ways to say this. You could say, she is your boss, isn't she? That's a real question. She is your boss, isn't she? That is just to confirm information or to find agreement. Very similar, different to affirmative and negative normal yes-no questions. So to add to the summary, the intonation one gives will change the intention of the tag question. If your intonation goes up, raising intonation, it's a real question. If your intonation goes down, it's just to confirm information. There is a car, isn't there? That's just to confirm information. There is a car, isn't there? That's a real question. Okay, so remember, your intonation is going to give the difference of the intention of the tag question. Second, we can use tag questions in any tense. It can be present, past, present perfect, past perfect, active voice, passive voice, every tense. Don't forget to use punctuation symbols. Don't forget the comma, and don't forget the question mark at the end. And as we saw before, a tag question is always opposite to the statement. A tag question uses pronouns only. And if it's negative, the tag question is always contracted. Okay, don't forget, tag questions have two parts. The auxiliary or modal verb, and if it's negative, contracted, and the pronoun. That's it. Okay, that's it with tag questions, and you have a lot of examples here that you can read on your own time. So that's it for today. That's it for this part. Wash your hands, please. Stay safe out there, and see you soon. Bye bye.